Real quick, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Greenlight.ai. We all know how important compliance is, and Greenlight.ai is the leader for compliance and EOR services, especially for talent platforms. You're going to hear about them later, but thank you to Greenlight. JJ, so you have one of the most exciting recording days, as I just told you. I've been up since 3. Dog had to have diarrhea. Really exciting. But that's okay, because for a month we've been prepping this episode, and for over 6 months I've been totally stalking you. And
Nice.
we're so excited to sort of hear what you're building, talk about why you're building it, where you see it going. I'll give context for you listeners. I originally saw you were aggregating various job descriptions, which also meant various platforms. And our tech team and me went, holy shit, sweet, look what he's doing. And also, you're in Amsterdam. Wherever you are has a much cooler background than me. So this is going to be a fun episode. But JJ, let's just start with give us a little spin on you. Tell us where you're located, and we'll roll from there.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. So actually, I'm in Lisbon right now. So I used to live in Amsterdam, and we moved about a year ago. We moved to sunny old Lisbon just because, if you look at the weather right now, it's horrific. And here we still have 27 degrees, and it's amazing. So back in 23, I a little bit about myself. Back in 23, I sold my company, which was a traditional recruitment company, which is called Found. And I really wanted to do something with, obviously I wasn't able to do, recruitment per se. And I really wanted to do something with freelancers, right? So we had a couple of freelancers, and I noticed a couple of problems with freelancers as we were going along. I discovered that freelancers are notoriously bad at selling themselves and notoriously bad at business development. And that's, understandable if you've been working your niche or your niche for the past 5, 6, 10 years, which is completely understandable because it's a really, really difficult thing to get into. But I had all this knowledge about, recruitment, about sales, about business development. So I figured, how about I go into that space and see if I can help freelancers, become more successful, and that's exactly what I did. And then what you basically notice when you're really helping these people out in like a coaching method is that it's not very scalable. Right? So you can help maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 people, a month, and then you got to go back to your own business development. So it's not very scalable. So I really needed a digital backbone, and that's basically what we're trying to create now. Is allGigs, which is the name of the company, is a platform that should help freelancers track and sign their freelancing assignments. We're part CRM, we're part lead generation tool, and we're going to give you all the tools you need to be successful, to really find your assignments and to sign them as well. Because this is obviously not just about finding these assignments, right? The aggregation. It's also about, am I urgent enough to actually go after this assignment, and how do I follow up and stuff like that.
So I actually didn't know the part of building a recruiting company before, and a staffing company. So now I'm like extra excited. I have a funny quick question, JJ, and that is literally, are staffing firms, are they inherently just a waste of time? Should they be gone tomorrow? Is there great things about them that should stay? And I'll give you context. So when I first got into this world in 2012, I fell deeply in love with the technology, and I was like, hey, let's get rid of all layers. It's crazy to me that just someone, helps me get this job, that they should have a piece forever. Or is there, but then to be honest with you, I would say I kind of grew up in terms of, then I looked and I said, actually, an agency makes total sense when there's $1 million plus scope of work. You want the long-term relationship. You need the hierarchical structure to go from principal to associate, right? And then kind of went the opposite of, okay, maybe this large, totally decentralized. And I saw your background with DAOs. So I kind of was like, ooh, maybe DAOs actually aren't the answer for everything. And so I've kind of come to the place of like a combination of the techie that wants to decentralize the world, but also the old man on the porch that realizes, hey, we actually need processes and structure. But for you, how do you think of staffing, recruiting companies? Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a interesting, and I thought about this a lot. What's the actual value of a recruitment company, and how do they add value to a for a freelance or for a perm? How do they add value? And obviously there's an enormous value here because the whole recruitment industry is what, 680 billion euro globally, which is massive, and it's still growing. And that's for a good part, I think, because they take so much out of your hand, right? They what they do is, job discoverability. They find out what the job is, right? They prepare the candidates for that, and obviously it's in large part sales, right? But if you truly boil it down, and this might get me in trouble, but the only advantage that a recruitment company might have is job discoverability, right? So they find the jobs and they show you the jobs, right? But beyond that, like if you're a successful freelancer already, beyond that, do you really need recruiters? Do you really need people to tell you how to apply or no? So basically you don't, right? And if we make job discoverability real easy, as the one thing we're trying to do in with all gigs, then there might not be a need for. And obviously it's a difficult question to answer because the market's still growing, and there's a lot of people that are feel that are that have problems with the recruitment black box, like what actually goes on in the recruitment process. They don't know about the recruitment process, don't want to deal with the recruitment process. So yeah, it's a difficult question. The problem I have, just as you, is you know the the it's not the pricing is not fair, right? So if we like if you can solve that skewedness, then yeah, it's a good system. But as long as they keep asking for 25% of or like forever, right? So as long as they don't want to give you the the, the control over your own customers, then no, I would say that's a toxic company. But if as when they do and when they say, we're just going to take 6 months because then yeah, it's a really good system.
So, okay, I'm going to throw something at you and I wonder how you're going to react. Okay. So, what I'm going to throw at you is that I fervently agree on the recruiter aspect of I went and I found these jobs for you that
Hmm.
I would say 20 years ago that was valuable. But
Yeah,
when algorithms and digital networks can do that, then I would say, okay, that actually might be where like 99% of that aspect can be getting rid of.
yeah.
But this is what I'm going to throw at you. Rather than the recruiting aspect, and I'm not even going to make it the role, I'm going to make it purely the value of recruiting. Rather than find me work, it's find me a job, it's win me work. And what I mean by that is,
Mm,
right? A job board is
yes.
aggregating, but, and this is where I'm going to sound like old man on the porch. What is really good about agencies and increasingly about a lot of these specialized platforms, I'll give like quick examples like Catalent for consulting, Ripple
Yeah,
for
yeah.
marketing, right? Like the very special ones is they do go and they unlock budgets that freelancers as individuals could not get, right? So, and then that 25%, it's more of a marketing sales cost, which JJ, that's actually pretty cheap, right? Like I would love nothing more than to only have a 25% sales and marketing margin on our business, right? I'm going to throw that at you, but I want to hop into this section of why did you go into the freelance space and freelancers? Because I also think that's really, really crucial with you. But what's your reaction to that? And then we'll dive into why you and freelance.
Yeah, that's perfect. Like I fully agree. If that is the case, so let me rephrase your point. So if recruiters unlock jobs which are nowhere to be found, and if recruiters unlock and actually do their recruiting work, like as a salesperson, they all right, they create the opportunity, and then the work is beautiful, right? I think it's the reason I did it for a decade, right? This is exactly what you need to do. However, that's not always the case, right? This is not always happening. It is you so and the inherent problem is and there's a couple examples in the Netherlands we can give, right? Recruiters that go out and they have publicly aggregated, they play on people not knowing about certain vacancies, and they play on, but the vacancies are out there already. There's nothing to be done, right? It's just basically pointing out somebody, making sure that somebody takes a left instead of a right? You should apply to this position. And then I think because the market says, the market average says what, 25%, then I would say that's too expensive. But if, again, if a recruiter does his actual job, then yeah, it is exactly what needs to happen. But so that's not always happening. And so your second question was about why did I go for freelance instead of perm?
Yes. Which also, I will say, what one thing or one takeaway from this episode for you listeners, also in listening to you, might be a very simple, and I know you're also technical, so I'm going to get a little technical on like, what is the algorithm of how you see the world? And that algorithm might be if winning work, then win, right? And then it's like, hey, recruiter, you have earned that fee.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
rather than calling it recruiter, it's like, hey, middle layer, then you have totally earned that fee. And a practical example of that is like, let's say that you are a software development platform. If you go into Nike or whatever various company and you create $1 million of work, that's great, right? Like that is a
That's great.
win-win, phenomenal.
Yeah,
If, and then, else if you simply just forward work, meaning, oh, look, I found a bunch of jobs and I just forward your resume. Ooh, that should
yeah,
get
no.
taken over by software. So would you say, is that the algorithm of how you potentially see the world, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're also trying to do this, right? So in allGigs in the platform, we're actually creating features which we call stacked jobs, right? Which basically looks at all the jobs which are out there and then compares the exact same job, right? And then we compare them in company, we compare them in job description, location, right? And some of the, like if they're like 80% the same, it's the same job, right? For example, it's very easy. If the rate's the same, the company might not be mentioned. If the rate's the same and the location's the same, right? It's not a guarantee, but it's probably the same job, right? So then we try to stack these jobs and just show you the sources that list them, the sources or the companies, the recruitment companies that list them, because then it's a computer thing instead of it's not a recruiter thing. You shouldn't be able to get 25% or then it's just this job discoverability, and that's more a computer thing.
So actually, you know what I do love too, JJ, is we were at a conference with, I mean, technically over 600 talent executives, but
Yeah,
I would say, we spoke with over 100 now, and this was solutions and companies. Now, on the solution side, dude, I'm not lying, like 60% of companies we met with were AI recruiters. It
yeah.
got to the point where when I would like meet someone and I was like, oh, I really don't want to talk with them, they'd be like, oh, what do you do? And I would just say, oh, we're an AI recruiter company, because I knew that they would just walk away, right? But one of the patterns I noticed was, I mean, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, so I'm just going to say it. Sorry, listeners, if this offends you, but like, it was a lot of like YC 21-year-olds automating stuff they've never done themselves. And so it was something like, hey, we're going to go automate, we're going to use AI recruiting for factory jobs. And I was like, that's great, but have you ever stepped foot in a factory? Do you even know a factory worker? Like, it didn't compute for me. Whereas with you, you're solving the core value proposition without saying AI. Like, you're actually digging into what's wrong with these job recs, what's wrong with the process, because you already sold a recruiting company,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you've
yeah.
already unpeeled the onion.
Yeah, so
Now,
but I mean the route is obviously like a lot of this stuff is going to be AI, right? So we're also laying the tracks, right? The foundation, because in the end it's going to be, an automated sales business development tool, right? Like that's where everybody wants to go because, let's face it, we all want a lot of money and we don't want to do a whole lot of work for it. But but we're also laying down a track, but so what we're more onto is there's a couple of real problems in the field, right? And it's not skill. It's not that people aren't good at their job. It's literally they can't find the job. They don't know where to look and they don't understand the process. We made the process so complex that they don't know how to deal with it. And that's exactly what I don't want, right? That's the opposite of what recruitment should do. And then so for you as a technical expert to then flock to somebody who says, we'll help you, you know, but it's going to cost you it's going to cost you 25 or maybe even more than that, for 25% of your hard earned, rate that you fought so hard for. And you're not even going to get a guarantee from them. They're going to be like, well, if you fit, then, um, then, um, then we're going to give it to you. But and the main problem is that even and this is so even with the recruitment industry, right, at its peak that it is, there's still a great number of freelancers that go out of business because they can't find, right? Because you got to understand that their business development strategy is so limited that they might call two or three recruiters, right? And they might have five platforms that they're looking at, two or three recruiters, and then that's it. They might do that for 3 or 4 months, right? And then when he's finished, okay, time to get a job. And so I'm not against the recruitment industry. Absolutely not. That's my heritage. But it's so even with that, trick, it's still business freelancers still seem to not be able to find assignments, and so we got to make it more easy, right? We got to simplify everything, and that's what we're
So
really trying to do.
let me get technical in the scope of the data that you've captured. I think this is actually something wicked unique about you that I have not seen on others. One of the reasons we perked up was you literally had data on or on Dutch police and government. Like for those listeners, like if you're totally not interested yet, at least go check this out. Like that was one of where things where our eyes popped. And I'll be honest, AJ, so a lot of times when we see like newer solutions pop up and they're doing something like aggregating, we look at our own database and we're like, why didn't they just contact us before? Like there's like 97% overlap. In yours, I'm not going to lie, it was actually mostly net new stuff that I'm like, oh my God, how did we not know
Nice.
about this? So,
Yeah.
first, like, congrats on that. But two, let our listeners know the scope of the data that you're capturing because it's so powerful. Everyone, real quick, I want to talk about the risk that is involved with an independent workforce. No matter where you are, whether it's the US, whether it's Brazil, whether it's the EU, whether it's London, there is risk in how you classify and how you work with individuals. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just paying someone. The classification, the actual collaboration, the contracts, the payments, everything is intertwined and must be connected in a way that doesn't get you in trouble with the tax authorities, regulatory authorities, and even potentially class action lawsuits. There are numerous examples of this. Just search classification lawsuit and you'll get plenty. Which is why today's sponsor, Greenlight.ai, is the modern EUR, modern compliance solution for the modern workforce. There's 4 things that we want to call out when hiring an independent worker that you need. And that is you need to onboard, you need to classify, you need to send payments, and you need to manage this global workforce. It's more than just one person, and Greenlight has all of that covered. All right, I want you to head over to greenlight.ai and tell them Human Cloud sent you.
Yeah, so there's a in the Netherlands there are, so it's there's 1.78 million freelancers, right? Registered freelancers as of 2024. And the country only has 18 or 19 million people, right? So it is a lot of freelancers. And there's a lot of job boards, aggregators. There's a lot of, but it's also a very liberal country and a very free country, right? So what they like, they want to be fair in almost everything. So what they have is they have, there's hidden throughout the entire internet. There's hidden portals that you can access, which are, uh, uh, and there's what you call them tenders and stuff like that, which you can actually access. And so the scope at which include, police, which include the Chamber of Commerce and all these governmental organizations, which you can just basically we can access. So, but like there's people not being able to find jobs right now, but we're aggregating around, uh, you know, I think an average of 7,000 freelancing jobs a day, which are searchable, and these are all based in the Netherlands, right? And we started doing the same thing to France as well, and that's another 7,000 you can you can add, and then this thing is just going to keep on growing, right? We're going to do UK, we're going to do Germany, we're going to do Belgium, because freelancers, they don't really see borders, but they see opportunities. And if it's an English vacancy, I would urge you to apply, right? And so what's going to happen is that, this allGigs is going to be a massive database of freelancing opportunities that the entire of Europe can just, log into and find their next assignment. Yeah,
So
it's going to be massive.
I love that you actually break it down by, and this is where like it's obvious that you've already built something, right? Because you didn't just say, hey, let's spam all of Europe. But if you were probably based in Silicon Valley in 2021, you probably would have just said, all right, let's publicly scrape everything. So I love that it's, more of a segment by segment approach. The second thing, you know what it reminds me of? So in 2016, I was early at Gigster, which Gigster and Topstyle
Yeah,
were like the two software dev
yeah,
darlings. And I remember as part of that had basically it was like the Lyft of Latin America reach out to us about, hey, we have this concept that it can be more than just, car rides. It can be everything. So we're talking trains, buses, you name it. Now, theoretically, this made total sense, right? It was like, okay, duh, like let's put this all onto one platform. You can see everything. But technically, we didn't realize we were limited because it was down to things like Chamber of Commerce's local regulation and then being able to structure the data. So, I mean, you're in Lisbon, right? So think like 30 minutes outside. Are those buses really in the right data format that is real time capturable, whatever? It kind of reminds me of that, where maybe we're at a place right now where someone like you can actually uncover that the data is properly structured correctly, that you can pull from places that prior just weren't possible, right? Like Chamber of Commerce's JJ, are you? I'm gonna use a little American. Are you shitting me? Like, how did you
yeah,
figure?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
cool. What's the?
And it's the cool thing as well is that, so they don't really so most of these companies don't really care about, speaking Dutch or anything. So it is open to a lot of people outside of the Netherlands as well. And this is very exciting because, so here you are in Belgium or here you are in America, and you're thinking about joining in Amsterdam, right? So what you do is you open, you contact a your company. Now now you're actually employed in Amsterdam, and you find yourself a development job in Amsterdam, right? And so now you get to I like, also for people on the outside, I feel like it's going to be very, very, very interesting. And then obviously the second thing, like, because it's not just, so scraping for us is a means to an end, right? So we need to do that right now so that the platform is obviously backfilled with a bunch of jobs, right? So one, job discoverability, because that's a major problem for freelancers, right? How are they going to find assignments? And they really, really struggle with that right now. And so in the end, we'll start to obviously increase it. And then hopefully they become, native jobs, and we'll start to go with APIs and stuff like that to actually, get all this information in directly. But it just really baffles me that there's no centralized position, like there's some centralized hub with, good search, good, just so you can find your freelancing assignment, right? Because they're the backbone of almost of anything. And so it really baffles me that that's not happened. And secondly to that is, why, if you're going to create a job board, or if you're going to do anything in that space, why not also give these people the tools that they actually need to be successful, right? Why not also look at, how would you structure a CV, or why not also look at, follow-ups and stuff like that. And so the platform itself is really, really interesting. And to your point, you said you already have like so much of the rest of the world aggregated. Well, so we're actually building a very, very, very lenient, very, very powerful way to scrape or to aggregate all these platforms. It'd be very, very interesting to see if we can backfill, all the opportunities you guys have into that system, and create, instead of a European, maybe even like a global, uh, obviously, per country sliced.
So what we are restructuring together is that we okay, our thesis is we fervently believe in the solutions and we fervently believe in the talent platforms. Now, that doesn't mean that we believe in all talent platforms. So if you were to take, our data would say there's around 2,000 plus solutions, around 800 strictly platforms. And honestly, around 80% of those platforms are actually specialized. So they are things like oil and gas engineers in Malaysia. They're things like footwear specialists in
Yeah.
Paris. The craziest level of specialization. One JJ actually was soccer referees in the US. And if you think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, so there's all these pockets of increasingly specialization popping up. Now, it comes back to the first principle of, are you winning work or just facilitating work? If winning work, I think there's plenty of value, and it's actually really tough to win the work. And the incentives should be that these specialized talent platforms go and win the work. And then potentially you are actually one of the aggregators to have a larger population of people to access that. So the connection between us is over the next 5 years, we're going to unlock a lot of, I'm going to say like non-value added recruiting layers. And you're going to expose that. We are going to continue to keep having these incredible solutions, and some of the ones that I've brought up, right, where they're very, very specialized. And that combo, I think, is going to look more like the modern agency. And it's going to be a combination of agency budgets and staffing budgets because the budgets aren't going away, right? Like, especially these large companies that are spending 5 to 10 billion a year on contractors, that doesn't go away. If anything, that's actually going to increase. It's just simply the technology to get that done. You are at the front of it, which the last question I have for you, JJ, and I do want to add as well, Europe needs you so badly in terms of like a higher level problem statement. What does Europe need? You need outside of Europe talent or efficient European talent because listen, nothing is better than visiting Europe, but nothing is worse than being a business owner in Europe, right? So you guys badly need new models. But the last question that I have for you is why freelance, right? Out of all the models you could have done, you could have said, I'm going to do this for full-time jobs. I'm going to do this for temp to hire jobs. But you went the crazy route of, hey, these are people who are going to stay working independently, multiple clients. Why this crazy world of freelance and how do you define it as well?
Yeah, so good question. So freelance is so if you look at companies, right? So first off, freelancers are people that, are going to follow their dream and they're going to step out of their comfort zone and be like, I can do this stuff on my own. And they might have not understood the entire, the gesture that they're doing, but they are going to, step out of their comfort zone and they're going to actually try it. And I think that's a real beautiful thing for the freelancers. So I think because they need all the help they can get, like that's got to be the main reason, right? And it's not because these, like I said before, it's not because of these people that they're very skilled, right? And it's not skill that they're lacking. It's literally it's this much in a you know it's they are lacking a, perhaps a way, a process to make them more efficient in applying, right? We've made recruitment so complex, and that's what they need help with. So so if you're a real technical expert and if you're good at what you're doing and if you're motivated and then you're not finding the right type of assignment or you that's just it's a shame. And I really want to help on that front. So we're really choosing, like allGigs is really going to choose the freelancer as their star, right? So we might not be bound by recruitment contracts. We might not. So we'll do anything to protect or help the freelancer. Try to keep prices low. Try to really choose what is beneficial for a freelancer, and yeah, because it's exactly what is needed.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. Well, listen, last question for you. So our listeners, you tell us when you want JJ next. I have a feeling 6 months based on how fast you're building. It might be as quick as possible. JJ, we got to get you into our membership so you can kind of, give the 2 to 5 minute spiel into our listeners or into our audience. And so last question for you, Mr. 401, where can our listeners find you and what is one thing you want them to do right now?
So obviously at allGigs.nl, that's where we have our information right now. And what I want you to do is sign up for early access so that when we actually go live, we can find you and start to help you. Like our platform is going to be very lean. It's going to be very easy to manage. It's going to give you all the tips and tricks, the insights to find your next assignment. And even if you're already finding assignments very, very easy, like it'll give you overviews of, are my rates good enough, or are my, it'll give you an overview of the market, which is, it's going to help any freelancer in their segment.
Love it. All right, man. JJ, thank you for hopping on. Listeners, go connect with him ASAP. I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks.